Good morning and welcome back. You're still tuned in to Salam Media. This is News and Views, the Wednesday edition of News and Views. And we'll be now looking into, I think, a very disturbing and quite important topic. As Syrians rejoiced across the country this past week, many began the frantic search for missing loved ones who had been forcefully disappeared under Bashar al-Assad's brutal dictatorship. Crowds have descended on notorious Sednaya prison, which had become synonymous with arbitrary detention, torture, and murder. And under the glaring sun, people poured toward the notorious facility north of Damascus as traffic stretched for miles, and some left their cars to walk the last stretch uphill past barbed wire fences and watchtowers. Just as Assad's palaces revealed the extent of the family's opulent wealth and luxurious lifestyle, his prisons have confirmed the horrors that Syrians have known all too well over the past 5 decades. And to give us a bit more on that, we'll be speaking to Jabbar Baker. He's a Syrian novelist and researcher specializing in the history of Syrian prisons. He's also the co-author of the Syrian Gulag, Inside Assad's Prison, 1970 to 2020. Brother Jabbar, welcome to Salam Media. Really appreciate you giving us your time this morning. Thank you so much. How are you?
Thank you so much, and I'm really fine in this time. And I would like to say from your radio to the Syrian good morning of freedom to Syria and the prisoners through your radio. Thanks a lot.
I think the pleasure is all ours. I think, our point of departure could be, just the obvious. You've done extensive research on the Syrian prisons, during, I think the terror and the reign of Assad. What can you tell us from your research and the book that you have written about just the state of affairs? Because I think looking at the images, it looks so horrific, but talking to someone who can give you, almost personal and kind of close interactions with the prisons itself would give and paint quite a different picture.
To clear the imagine about the prison in Syria, I would like to make like a small introduction. We speak about the huge archipelago from the prisons and detention center in Syria. Start from 70s, the last century till now, till Bashar al-Assad and his father. But already, if we try to speak about the situation now in Syria, when the people and the families went to the Sednaya and try to dig the basement and try to find their lovers there, because of the story and the legend about this prison and the whole system, the whole prison system in Syria. We speak about exactly about the imprisonment state in Syria, imprisonment regime that happened and continue for 55 years. And all these time, I mean all these 55 years, they imprisoned the Syrian, arrested them, tortured them till death, and disappeared them in different way, in different place, in different method. And if we try to speak about the feeling now, because we are in the freedom moment, when someone asked me about the prison and the experience, my personal experience, because I spent 2 years in the prison in Sednaya, all the time I say, I get my release from the prison, but the prison is still in my side. After the 8th of December this year, the prison go out from my side, and the prison will be in the history in this time. I would like to speak about the prison in the past, not in the prison. So if I have a small team work with me in Syria to try to document this really important moment for the Syrian prisoners, and they told me a huge numbers of the Syrians try to occupy the military branches, the place where they think there is a special detention center, secret prison, even inside Naya, and they try all the time looking on the paper and document and read the names, and they shocking. Even the Syrian, they know very well the system. They have this a new panic with this kind of like a horrible and monster way to treat the Syrian inside the prison, execute them, any time, without any reason, to torture them till death, leave them starving, leave them without any, with a very, very, very terrible health situation till death in the prison. Then they put them in the plastic and put them
Mm,
in like a grave, and somewhere we don't know where exactly. We try to find this like a massive graves to protect it, to preserve it, because we we start from this moment and our very long journey to have our justice against this regime, I mean Assad regime.
No, definitely. And we've just heard about some of the scenes that were unfolding at Sednaya prison. After literally the liberation of Syria and its people. As someone who studied and lived the reality of these prisons, how do you react to the recent discoveries that were made there? Were there things you learned that shocked even you? Someone that has spent, as you mentioned, 2 years at the Saint Naya prison.
Actually, I I have a huge number from my friends, from my family. They have this experience with the prison, even in Sednaya. Some of them they pass away there. So when I see the people inside the Sednaya, not as a prisoner, as revolt, they try to take the place and liberate the other people inside. That made me a little bit, how can I say it, a little bit confused, because you have this kind of relation with with your prison, because the prison in Syria, it's not for 2 or 3 months. For the other people, for example, my friend Raghid Tatari, he spent 43 years inside the prison. It's really, it's a really long time. It's 43 years. It's not 1 or 3 or 10 years. I when I was in Sednaya, he was there, and we tried to speak together about his life. He all the time tried to speak very polite and very kindly, like a father with me, because in that time he told me, my son, I think he older than you just 1 year,
Mm,
and I have been arrested and I get my release, and till this time, till 8th of December, he get his release, and he is now in a new life in Syria and try to rebuild his life. But when you see the situation, the terrible situation, even if you know very well this place, I know Sednaya very well. I did around 120 interviews with the different people from the different prisons. Even with all this information, with all of this database that I have it already, all of this information that I know it very well, I think we need more years to study very well the prison, to study very well the situation there, and try to understand it very well, and to build our narrative about the prison. You
mm,
know, the narrative, it's a part of the justice. So we need in this time to preserve these places, to make it like a monument for our story, like make it like a daemon for our story, for our history, because we don't need to play again this kind of playing against the Syrian. We don't need rebuild Sednaya as a prison. We need to rebuild Sednaya as a museum. We need to rebuild Tadmor prison as a museum, even Mazze, even the other intelligence branches in Syria. But I would like to say for the Syrian prisoners in this time, feel in freedom, feel liberation in this time, because you are alive again. You have a new life, and we have from your radio, I would like to say, we need a huge help from different country. They have this similar situation in their history, to help us to reintegrate the Syrian again in the life, because it's not easy to reintegrate them in the psychological way, in the social way, and economic, and and even in the healthy, because in the situation there in Saidnaya, it was very terrible, and the people get their release with the very, very, very weak bodies, with very weak with a very weak health situation. Yeah.
No, definitely. And I like the point that you're making. When you say Sednaya could probably be rebuilt to be a museum, I can tell you we have something like that here in South Africa. It's called Robben Island. This is a prison where the likes of Nelson Mandela and all of the other freedom fighters here in South Africa were kept in. During the dark days of apartheid. It was a little island off the coast of Cape Town, and some very very horrible and horrific things happened there. And right now it's a museum. People go there and get to learn about the dark history of South Africa, and it kind of bridges that gap. So I think that's a really brilliant idea that you have, and we have examples of that here in South Africa. But I want to touch a bit on the psychological impact. Many survivors of the prison system in Syria, including the ones that were, freed from the Sednaya, are said to be suffering from severe psychological trauma. How did the regime's practices impact the mental health of those detained, both during incarceration and after their release? And how difficult is it going to be to try and reintegrate them back to society after, the freedom that they've attained now?
So we will start from the story from the first. When you are as a Syrian in the street, for example, and someone from the Syrian regime arrested you without any reason and put you on the any intelligence branch, torture you for a long time, and try to build a story. It's all the story. It's a fake story about your work, about your opinion against Bashar Assad, or work with the revolt people and try to be a military man, etc., etc., etc. It's make you like, I'm sorry, this is not. It's not my story. It's not my opinion. Yes, I need my freedom, but I'm not a criminal. I'm a human being. I'm try to be a good guy for this country. Then put you on Saidnaya for a long time, torture you without any reason, with this horrible situation. Then in this kind of situation, you will lose your mind. It's normally to be weak and weak in your health and your psychological health. And like, when you get released, all the people thought about you and think about, yeah, this man is a political prisoner, this man did this or that. And in the reality, it's not. Just you have your opinion and spend 10 years, and no one can believe this story. Yeah, you arrested for 10 years just because you say Bashar Assad is crazy. Yeah, that's happened in Syria. So
Mm,
if you try to reintegrate these people in the psychological way and with the society, you need to be accepted their story. You need to be accepted and announce their story for all the other people, and they need to listen from the jailer and from the perpetrator the confess they we did this and we do this, because the confess is a part of the treatment. It's a part of the justice journey, and in this way we can reintegrate the people inside the society. And after the last step to the court issues, I mean the sentence that will be against the perpetrators, and the final one, it will be like a long term from the psychotherapy, from like maybe analysis way, maybe in a cognitive way, maybe in the exposure therapy. I don't know. There is a lot of ways to reintegrate and to help the people in the psychological way, to reintegrate them in the society and revive them again in their life, and give them this new chance to be as they would like to be.
mm, mm. And just in closing, just watching from where you currently are right now in France, and witnessing in real time the collapse of Assad's regime, what has been your reaction and the reaction among Syrians who are scattered all across Europe and all across the world, who have
Yeah.
suffered under this regime? Are people ready to start healing, or is the pain still too fresh and too deep? And also, what do you hope to see for the future of Syria now that Assad has fled? Do you think there's a chance for reconciliation and rebuilding, or or will the wounds of the past take a bit too long and to heal because they are very very deep?
Actually, I think the Syrian and this diaspora and this like refugees situation and across Europe and even another country, they start healing in this time. I will start from myself. I have my first call with my father from 13 years ago, because when you work in like this kind of research on the prisons and on this like political issues, or you will be dangerous even for your family. If you have a call with your family inside Syria, you will put them in dangerous situation. Maybe the regime will arrested them. By the way, my mother arrested 3 years. My brother arrested 2 years inside Syria. And in the 8th of December, I have my first call with my father and my mother and my brother from 13 years ago, because I tried to call them or reach them by SMS through my sister, etc., with a very secret way to speak about their situation in Syria, their horrible situation in Syria, and during this time. Now this is the first phase of the healing. Reconnect your family again, reconnect your homeland again. When we speak about the homeland, the Syrian and the refugees situation, they don't have homeland. We have a new land and another new land and another new land. And when you don't and didn't have your homeland, you don't have yourself. You couldn't have your soul. You couldn't have your future. Now we have our homeland. Even we need to work a lot to rebuild it. We need to work a lot to save it again from anyone will try to be like a Bashar al-Assad. We have to fight all the time, yes, but we have homeland. Finally we have our homeland in Syria. Even if you are a Syrian inside Syria, you feel it's not your country, it's not your homeland. It's the Assad regime homeland. It's Syria al-Assad. It's the country of the al-Assad family. It's not for us.
Mm.
Now Syria, it's returned to us as a Syrians, return to the Syrian people, return to their child.
No, definitely. And I think we're going to leave it here for now, Brother Jabbar. Thank you so much for sharing your insights and most importantly, your personal experiences with us today. I think your work and your courage, to speak out have shed light on some of the dark realities of Assad's presence. We wish you all the best in your future work and we'll continue to follow the unfolding situation in Syria with great interest. And we wish, all Syrians the best. I think I speak for all South Africans when we say we wish you all the best, and we hope for a better and brighter Syrian future.
Thank you. Thanks again.
There we go. That was a Syrian novelist and researcher specializing in the history of Syrian prisons. He's also the co-author of the book Syrian Gulag, Inside Assad's Prisons from 1970 to 2022. Jabbar Baker, he himself also spent about 2 years in the Cyanide, one of the brutal prisons that was ran by the Assad regime, the Sednaya prison, So yeah, I think really interesting insights that he's giving us, and we'll definitely be following what's happening in Syria with keen interest as they open a new chapter in their book of history. We're going to take a quick break. When we come back, News and Views continues.